So it's been about a month since the boom of Sword and Shield booster boxes when everybody was talking about the craze and it was super hyped up. It lasted about a week and now we are about a month later and the market is dormant. It's basically back to where it was originally before the boom in terms of sales volume. Really nobody talks about it. There's not a high amount of sales. Prices are still higher than they were before the boom, but a lot of them have gone down. And looking at all these box prices, I was very surprised to see how much a lot of these boxes have dropped in price. It's some of them it's been in the hundreds of dollars, some of them like $30 to $50. I'm going to show you guys here which boxes have dropped. Pretty much all of them, but some of them have dropped pretty significantly. Where I would say they're pretty good pickups. And I'm very surprised by a couple of them here that I wanted to share. Now, with this recent price drop, I feel like Sword and Shield has become even a better buy than they were before, obviously, because, Scarlet and Violet, a lot of these good sets, the newer stuff, they all could get reprinted, some people say into the ground. So buying these boxes that are out of print, and now prices have dropped pretty significantly from where they were at about a month ago, I think is a great idea to pick up some if you're trying to invest right now and maybe you're scared to buy some of the new stuff in Scarlet and Violet. Now, Sword and Shield, I don't think is going to have any sort of run up for at least the next few months here. I think we could potentially see a run up at the end of the year, but I think during at least the summer, I think Scarlet and Violet with these newer sets is probably going to just, the hype is probably just going to be there. I don't think it's going back to Sword and Shield, so it's very possible prices may drop a little bit more from where they're at now. But for how much some of these boxes have already dropped, I feel like if you can find a nice clean box for on the prices you can see here on TCG Player, I think they're pretty good pickups. Because honestly, I don't know if this is the bottom, top, or not the top, but the bottom, or if it's going to go lower. But some of them have dropped enough where, like I said, I think they're pretty good pickups for where they're at right now. So first here we have Chilling Reign. So Chilling Reign right now is in the low 400s. You can see previously this was a little bit more expensive. At one point, lowest listed was like in the 460, 470 range. So these haven't dropped a ton like some other ones I'll show you here. But in the low 400s, I think Chilling Reign still is a pretty good buy at this price point. If you go on eBay, you won't find them for much cheaper than that. You'll find them for around the same price. So if you can find a nice clean one on eBay, you guys can check any of these listings that I'm showing you guys here. I'm not going to click on any of them, but there's a good amount here in the 20s, even 400. This is from Pakistan. I don't know if that's a good buy there, but any of these boxes you can find in the 400s or whatever, I think are pretty good. So you can just find a nice minty box, and you don't, in my opinion, you don't really got to be super like just impatient. Like if you find some boxes here that are in the low 400s that are kind of beat up, I'd probably wait around because there are some clean ones that are going for low 400s. So you can probably take your time. I don't think there's any rush to buy these, but you probably don't want to wait until probably like the end of the year, because I'm really thinking that at the end of the year, possibly we could see some sort of surge back to Sword and Shield. But you can just look around, find a good price in a clean box, and I think Chilling Reign still at this price point is a good pickup. Now next here, Evolving Skies. So Evolving Skies really hasn't gone down since the hype. It went from like 1400 to like $2,000. You can't see lowest listed is like 1900. I mean, these kind of range from 1900 to 2000. If you go on eBay, you'll see I found this listing. I don't know if it has any damage to it, but it is a lot cheaper than everything else. But other than this listing, everything is listed for like 1900 to like $2,000. So these ones really haven't gone down much. I mean, it's not that surprising. It's Evolving Skies. So this is one of the anomalies that really hasn't gone down much at all. Now next here, this one, it was surprising to see because Fusion Strike at one point was like above, at least lowest listed, like $900. But as you can see here, lowest listed now is $750. So they've dropped like $150 from where they were originally lowest listed. So pretty big price drop. And there's a lot of these on eBay that I was able to find for under $750. Like there's a couple here. There's one here. I think maybe this one has some damage to his redescription, but there are a lot here for under $750. So like I said, with any of these boxes, I wouldn't just like snap buy like any of these boxes that are like maybe a little bit damaged for cheap prices. If you're patient, I think you can find pretty good deals for these because the market right now really isn't that hot with these. So Fusion Strike, I think at $750. The fact that they were at one point like $900, I feel like Fusion Strike then at $750 really is not that bad of a pickup. I feel like it was a little bit harder to argue that, buying them at 900 was a good pickup, but 750 I think is not that bad. So Fusion Strike, even though it is a lot more expensive than other boxes, I think this price sort of retrace we've seen recently, I think it might not be a bad pickup if you don't have any. Now next here, Brilliant Stars. At one point these were like $500. Now they're in the low 400s. Pretty much all these boxes, I'm going to say the same thing. I think they're all still good buys. They've all gone down in price recently, and I think it's just just an opportunity for a pickup. So on eBay here, you can see you're going to find them basically the same price as TCG Player, but you're able to look at the boxes. I've said this previously, for these types of boxes that are more expensive, buying from eBay where you can see the pictures of the boxes, I think is a lot better if they're the same price as TCG Player, and you can see here you can buy them in the low 400s. Now next here, Astral Radiance. At one point this was basically $500. It was like a few boxes away from hitting that price point, but they've gone down significantly. Astral definitely is, or was in my opinion, a little bit expensive back then when it was about to hit 500. I was pretty surprised, and they've gone down a lot since then, which I'm not surprised because Astral, out of all these boxes, in my opinion, it's just not the strongest set out there. And you can see lowest listed right now is $380, so this one has gone down quite a bit. Now if you go on eBay, you're gonna find them for around the same price as TCG Player. This one here has a tear in the seal, but it's like $350. But yeah, there's plenty of these for 400 or a little bit under. So Astral has gone down a bunch, and there's a bunch of listings on eBay for this box. Now next here, this one I'm kind of surprised it's dropped this low. So at one point, during the whole boom thing, these hit $600, and since then they've gone down all the way now to under $500 on TCG Player. Now it's worth noting though, for Lost Origin booster boxes, even though TCG Player here lowest listed is like $490, or like I guess just basically $500, on eBay they're pretty impossible to find for that price point. As you can see here, they're all listed in the low 500s. They're not really below 500, so could be a sign that these are pretty cheap on TCG Player, which if you can buy them for under 500, I think is a pretty good buy, because if you go on eBay you're not able to find these for under that price. Now lastly here, Silver Tempest. Silver Tempest was one I was very surprised during the whole boom, during the whole Sword and Shield thing. These never hit 500. Like Astral was pretty close to hitting it. These never even broke 400. So these really haven't dropped as much as the other boxes because they were never that expensive, I guess, from the whole boom to begin with. So right now these are like 340, which is basically what they were at during the whole boom thing. Like these, I think, were like 360. So they've only dropped like $20, which isn't that much, but still. I think Silver Tempest being in the 300 is such a great deal. In my opinion, pretty much one of the best buys that you can get right now for Sword and Shield booster boxes. You can see you're able to find these for around the same price that you're able to find on TCG Player. And if you find a nice clean box, I think this is probably one of the best buys in Sword and Shield right now. So I just want to make this video to update you guys on these Sword and Shield booster boxes. I feel like all of them from this recent price drop, they're all great buys. It's basically, in my opinion, whatever you don't have or you want to invest in, I think any of these are great buys. Evolving Skies, maybe it's a little bit more of a harder, I guess, argument to make, but I think Evolving Skies in a few years from now, wouldn't be surprised if it doubles in price again, like it has recently in the past. It's probably doubled in the last 6 months or something. So I think all these boxes are good buys. And I think this recent price drop just makes them even better. So that's all I want to talk about here. Let me know if you guys have been buying any of these Sword and Shield booster boxes recently, because some of them have dropped pretty significantly. So that's all I want to talk about here. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.